Hey, hello. So I got into the Bronica SQ system recently, and I figured I'd make a little quick video talking about what I've bought, some thoughts on it, what's essential and what's not. Let's put whatever's essential over here, near this pineapple, and stuff that's more optional in this system on this side. So first off, we have the body. This is the Bronica SQ-A system, Bronica SQ-A camera. There is a newer version known as the Bronica SQ-Ai. The biggest difference between the two is that the AI features a bulb mode in the shutter speed, while the A does not. The AI also has some TTL flash metering and things like that. But otherwise, they're similar. So if you don't need a bulb mode, or you're okay relying on the lens's bulb mode, there's no harm in getting the A version instead. The original SQ-A, like the one that preceded this, doesn't have mirror lockup, which I think is a useful feature to have. So I would recommend having this if you will ever use your camera with slower shutter speed, especially. But yeah, this is the body. Of course, you need a focusing screen as well. Hopefully, if you buy a body, it'll come with one. Finding one separately will probably cost you a fair bit more. You also need this crank for winding the shutter. I've seen some bodies come without a crank, so finding one of these by themselves is a bit difficult. So I'd advise finding a body that does come with it. Obviously, you can take it off and replace it with like a grip, or in the AI, you can also replace it with a motor wind. But really, this is a lot more fun, so I'd recommend at least getting the crank. So ignoring the strap, focus screen, body, crank, basic essential stuff. This is where your Bronica system starts. The next essential thing is a back. This thing is what you put your 120mm film into, and obviously you need one of these to take photos. So your film will go in this side here. You have to take off the reel, change the reels every time you load the film. You put the film here. You put the empty reel here, you roll the film around, and you're good to go. There are lots of tutorials and better guides online if you guys need help setting it up. But yeah, you need a back. This is the older back, the SQ back, I believe it's called. You can tell because of the ISO dials on the top. Some people prefer the newer ones that have it on the front instead, as certain viewfinders make accessing this harder, but for the vast majority of people, you're not going to change your ISO very often, if at all. So it doesn't really matter too much. The only difference is that the newer ones might have newer seals and then be in better condition, but that varies case to case. Okay. If you're getting a back, make sure it comes with this card. It's called a dark slide. It makes sure that you can take off the back without it exposing the film. So make sure your back comes with one of these, otherwise finding one on their own is going to be very challenging and difficult. Okay, so the next thing you need is the back, which you can just pop in very easily. Oops. There you go. Now your back is on the camera. Ignore this little label. I don't have any film inside here right now. Okay, it's good to go. Next, or you could use a viewfinder. Well, in theory, you can focus straight on the ground glass, but that's just asking for pain, I guess. This is my recommended viewfinder. It's the one a lot of people would want. It's the Waistlevel viewfinder for the Bronica SQ. It's just a little tube made of metal and plastic. And basically all it does is it lets you view the ground glass through this big hole. And for something so simple, it's really expensive. So try to find a Bronica body that comes with this, but you can buy them separately for 100 to 200 bucks. But yeah, this is really the best way of focusing on a Bronica, in my opinion. It comes with a little magnifying glass as well. So this will help you with focusing. So, you can frame up your subject in here, then pop down the magnifying glass, and now you've got a focus aid. Okay, so we have our back, we have the body, we have the viewfinder, we have a crank on this side. Before I get into the lenses, which is obviously the most important, let me show some other viewfinders that you can buy. A lot of Bronicas will come with this. This is the Prism viewfinder. And instead of this flat thingy, this will just slot on top over here instead. And you can view a flipped image through here. By flipped, I mean corrected. So the Waistlevel viewfinder shows you a mirrored image. This corrects that. It has a prism inside. There is a version of this that comes with metering as well. That's the only way you're going to be able to use automatic metering of any sort with the Bronica system. The Waistlevel viewfinder doesn't let you use any metering or anything of the sort. So if you want metering, you have to buy an AE finder of some sort. I'll show you another one in a second. This is a manual version of it. There's no metering built into this specific kind. The biggest drawbacks to this are that A, it's actually very heavy, or relatively heavy and large. B, it's a fair bit darker than the Waistlevel finder. I prefer to use that over this. However, sometimes you have to use a tripod and your camera's in a high place and you can't see the top of that. But I think for a lot of people, you could probably consider it optional. However, a good deal of bodies will come with one of these instead of one of these. So your options will vary depending on how much you're willing to spend. Personally, I'd recommend sticking to the Waistlevel finder and this being your secondary viewfinder. Here is another viewfinder. This is known as the Chimney viewfinder. This is an AE version with a shutter speed dial on this side. So this dial lets you control the shutter speed in more accurate increments than what this dial does. Or rather than accurate, I mean, there are more options on this dial compared to the dial built into the camera. There's a little dot on the inside that tells you when you're above or below exposure. Note that this won't set the exposure for you. You still have to do it yourself, but it will help you figure that out. So this is a chimney. It will just go onto the top like this without, you have to remove the Waistlevel first. And then you just pop this on. So it's kind of niche in its use. I think it's kind of cute though. I do want to clarify that there's no magnifying thing up in this lens here. So you don't even get the benefit of the Waistlevel viewfinder's magnifier, nor do you get the Prism viewfinder's flipped image. You just get a sort of a chimney that's well shielded from external light sources. And you get exposure monitoring through this. Very optional, pretty unusual accessory. I haven't seen too many people use these. I already mentioned that you want a focusing screen. Hopefully your body will come with one, otherwise you have to buy one separately. Lenses. Now, the most important lens that you'll probably want to buy is this, the 85 or the 80, sorry, f2.8 lens. This is more or less the kit lens for the Bronica system. It's the most popular lens, and for good reason. It's the fastest lens out of the Bronica SQ lenses at f2.8, and 80 is more or less 40 something millimeters, so it's a normal length lens. So it's versatile in that regard. And it's sharp, it's nice, produces great images. Most Bronicas came with one back in the day, so there are plenty of copies of these on the internet, and they'll go everywhere from I don't know, 150 odd bucks to maybe 200, 300 bucks. Unless you're really, really sure that you'll never ever need a normal length lens, this is the first lens I'd recommend people buy. So it's pretty much a requirement, in my opinion. And here I'll pop it on to complete our system. There we go. Now this Bronica is ready to shoot whatever we want. You'll notice that there's already an image in the viewfinder, and that's because the shutter is in the lens, and every time you take off a lens, you have to cock the shutter. So I can't take off this lens until I wind up the shutter. You have to remove the dark side before you take a photo. Okay. Now I can no longer take off the lens because of the shutter is no longer cocked. So you have to wind it up again. Just a heads up, if you're wondering why your lens isn't being removed by the lens removal button, make sure the shutter is cocked. Okay. So yeah, this is the 80 f2.8 is the standard lens, and I think every SQ owner should probably get it. The next lens that a lot of people have is the 150. This came with my camera, and I had to buy the 80 separately. This is the Zenzanon S 150 f3.5. There is a newer PS version which is sharper and better. However, this older S1 is smaller and lighter, so prioritize accordingly. This just happened to come with my camera, so I've just stuck with it. This is 150 millimeters, so it's more or less 80 millimeters. 80 is usually a great portrait lens, but this one doesn't have a very close minimum focus distance. It's only 1.5 meters or so. So it's not great for portraits, I would say. But for a lot of landscapes and stuff like that, you do want a short telephoto. So, this is a very good lens to have. I would say it's not strictly necessary depending on what you're doing. This is probably the most necessary after the 80. This one's at least not too expensive generally. The next thing you'll probably want to consider is an extra back. So I have an extra 120 back. This is SQ-Ai version. You can tell because the dial's on the front. Beyond that, there's no real difference between the two backs. There is a 220 version as well for the older, larger rolls of 120 film. I believe those can still take standard 120, but the numbers will be off. These 120 backs, they're a little bit pricey, but they're not super duper bad. I do recommend having two, just so you can switch out films, have two different speeds, for example. But it's not explicitly necessary, but I do recommend having one, a spare one. Okay, so all of these are sort of relatively useful items, Let's get to less commonly useful stuff. So this is a grip. So, in theory, you put this on the side. You have to remove the crank, by the way, before you do that. And then you can wind on the film like this and use this button to press to launch the shutter. I found this grip to be really finicky and it doesn't work very well. I think that the travel of the shutter button isn't great. It doesn't always fire. Could be a problem with my specific grip. It's hard to install as well. It doesn't fit very snugly into the crank. The main reason, or rather the only reason I bought this grip was because, as you may notice, this body has no flash hot shoe. There is a flash sync port at the front, but there's no hot shoe for a flash. So if you want to use a flash with the Bronica camera, I think a grip is the easiest way of doing it. You just pop this in and then now you have a hot shoe. Again, it's very niche. If you're doing indoor studio work, you probably want a flash, in which case I think this grip is the best way of going about it. Just pop it on and then pick your favorite wireless transmitter from Godox or some other company and pop it here and you're off to the races, hopefully. But like I said, this thing is a bit finicky. Your mileage may vary. Like I said, very niche, not super necessary. Let's get to my next two lenses. Yeah, I have more lenses. I actually have another two that are still in the mail. And it's very embarrassing to admit that because those two are even more expensive. So first lens is this really heavy thing. This is the Bronica 40mm f4. This is a beast of a lens. It's a 95mm filter thread, and while it's a bit small in size, it's pretty hefty. It's a glorious piece of glass, I guess. This is more or less equivalent to about 21mm in full frame terms, I believe. So it's very wide. Yeah, it's pretty niche in that not everyone needs a 21mm. In fact, most people don't need one. And it's also really expensive. It's a very expensive lens. So, you know, buy it if you're a silly person like me, or you're really into collecting things, but it's absolutely not required to make the most of your Bronica system. Unless, you know, you do wide landscape photography or something else. This final lens is even more rare and expensive than that one. This is the Bronica 110mm f4.5 macro. There is another macro lens, the 110mm f4, and you would think the f4 is the coveted one, but that one is like 1:4. This one is 1:1 macro on medium format. It's kind of ridiculous. 110mm is roughly 60 odd millimeters in full frame terms, and this lens is a joy to use. I would say only buy this if you really want to do macro, but also it's a very rare and very expensive lens, so maybe even then be careful. I managed to get a near new copy in the box, but it did cost me a pretty penny. And this is a nice lens. I like it a lot. I think I've heard almost all of the Bronica lenses except maybe the 50 are great, but I feel like this one is probably one of the best. It is really big. It is very heavy. So, you know, it's not the best for hiking or things like that, though I have taken it out for a few walks, but it's a superb optic. Again, very, very optional, and you can buy a full medium format camera just for one of these lenses. So, and they're very rare. They don't pop up too often at all. It's actually one of the newest lenses. It's not even listed on the LensDB website. But anyway, it's great optic, but I can't really recommend you buy it just because, yeah, it's pricey. My final accessory is very superfluous at all, and it's also really, really expensive. And this is a film back, but this is not an ordinary film back. This is a 35mm film back for $135 wide. So there's two versions of this film back. There's the 135N, which takes regular 35mm film, or rather regular 35mm frames of, you know, 24 by 36 or whatever it is. And then there's this wide version, which basically more or less takes the full 6 centimeters this way on 35mm film. And yeah, you basically get panoramas of, I believe it's like 4:9 is the aspect ratio, roughly. Yeah, these things are rare and they're very, very expensive every time they pop up on eBay. Yeah, but it's a lot of fun. I really like it, but I can't recommend it. Like, this is actually becoming my favorite way of shooting 35mm film now. I hesitate to use any regular 35mm camera because the wides are so cool. It does have a fair few flaws though. It's not trivial to load. It's a bit finicky, the loading mechanism. And on top of that, I've messed up most of my photos because of mostly probably mistakes. I really hope there's nothing wrong with the film back itself. A few of my shots were really out of focus. And this thing, the way it deals with film is a bit weird. I've actually torn a roll of film before using it too, so it is a bit finicky, but it's also cool. You also get to use 35mm film here. And another secret advantage of that is that there's some films that are 35mm only and not 120. And you're more or less kind of getting the resolution of something that's between 35 and between 120 when you use this, which I think is kind of neat. But yeah, again, expensive, not required. Another problem with this back actually is that you don't have frame lines by default on these cameras for that, obviously, which is actually why the focus screen I have in here you see those lines? Yeah, it's a 35135W focus screen. So those frame lines are specifically designed for the back. I don't mind leaving this screen in all the time because I can still see the bigger square around it to get an estimation of what the 120. But these focus screens are almost as rare, maybe even more rare than the back, and they're a bit pricey too. So there are alternatives. You can just buy, you can just take some clear plastic paper and get a printout and just use that as a frame guide. I think that should work reasonably well, or you can just, you know, eyeball it to whatever. But again, don't buy the back unless you really want to, or you get a decent price on it. I have a pouch. This didn't come with the camera. This is just a cheapo pouch I got from a store for storing it back. It's a bit too tight. I wish I had a better pouch. This is it. Oh. This is a cute little accessory. Someone on eBay sells these 3D printed slide holders for these dark slides. One of the problems with these Bronica dark slides compared to like Hasselblad or Mamiya is that it's really easy to lose this little piece of metal. There's nowhere on the camera to put it, so you're gonna find yourself putting it in your pocket, or maybe your bag, or just, you know, holding it in your hand and dropping it all over the place. My film back. Thank God I found it. I had to run back. So very easy to lose. It's very unfortunate. Someone did make this little 3D printed slide holder. I can link it below in the description. You just sort of slide it in, and now, well, you think that this is still easy to lose, but you can put a clip through, like clip your shoulder bag or something else through here, clip a strap through here or something and hang this somewhere, for example. Or just, it just helps keeping it from being warped. Anyway, I don't know. You don't need this obviously, but I just thought it was a cute $10 accessory someone was 3D printing on eBay. Okay, I put that here and put this back in my camera. And yeah, so I've had a lot of fun with this Bronica system. Most of my photos have been really bad, unfortunately. I keep messing up. It's been a steep learning curve, I guess, in that sense. I don't know if I've learned anything other than absolutely don't go below 1/60 seconds when you're hand holding a huge camera like this. And also double check your focus, make sure what you see matches the distance scale on the lens. But it's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy using this camera. Medium format images look neat. Unless your scanner is really good, you probably won't get like more megapixels than your digital photos or anything like that, but you know, it's just a different kind of fun. It is expensive, of course. And and the most important thing, which I don't have on this table, is of course film. You need film. You need to buy film to put into these bags. But yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you found a tour of my little Bronica setup interesting. Like I said, I do have 2 more really pricey exotic lenses in the mail, but we can talk about those some other day. Please like, share, subscribe.